Imagine spending years fighting to make people laugh. You perform in tiny comedy clubs. You sleep in cheap hotels. You wonder if anyone will ever know your name. Then one day, you create the biggest comedy show in America. Millions of people watch every week. Your face is everywhere. Your jokes become part of everyday conversations. And suddenly, a television network places $50 million in front of you. One signature, one contract, one decision. Most people would call that the opportunity of a lifetime. Dave Chappelle looked at it and walked away. Hollywood couldn't believe it. The media called him crazy. Fans thought something had gone terribly wrong. But before anyone could understand why Dave rejected $50 million, they first had to understand how he became valuable enough to receive that offer in the first place. Dave Chappelle wasn't born into fame. He was born on August 24, 1973, in Washington, D.C., into a family that valued education more than celebrity. His father, William David Chappelle III, was a professor. His mother, Yvonne Cian, worked in education and later served in government. Growing up, Dave was surrounded by intelligent conversations, but there was something else that fascinated him. Comedy. Even as a young boy, he loved making people laugh. Not because he wanted attention, because he enjoyed watching people forget their problems, even if only for a few moments. While other children imagined becoming athletes or musicians, Dave imagined standing on a stage with a microphone. He admired legendary comedians like Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy. He didn't simply memorize their jokes. He studied how they connected with audiences. That curiosity became the foundation of his career. After high school, Dave made a decision that surprised many people. Instead of following a traditional career path, he moved to New York City to pursue stand-up comedy. It wasn't glamorous. Far from it. Comedy clubs were competitive. Young comedians were constantly trying to prove they deserved stage time. Some nights Dave performed for packed rooms. Other nights hardly anyone paid attention. Sometimes people laughed. Sometimes they didn't. Every performance became a lesson. He learned timing. He learned confidence. Most importantly, he learned how to recover when jokes failed. Those difficult years shaped the comedian the world would eventually know. By the early 1990s, people inside the comedy world had started noticing him. His fearless style stood out. He wasn't trying to imitate other comedians. He wanted audiences to think while they laughed. That combination made him different. Hollywood also started paying attention. Dave appeared in films like Robin Hood, Men in Tights, 1993, and later The Nutty Professor, 1996. The roles were memorable, but they weren't enough to make him a superstar. Many actors would have accepted any opportunity that came along. Dave remained patient. He believed something bigger would eventually come. That patience paid off. As his stand-up performances became more popular, television executives began realizing something important. Dave Chappelle wasn't just funny. He had a unique voice. He could make audiences laugh while talking about subjects many comedians avoided. Race, politics, society, culture. He challenged people without preaching to them. That rare ability caught the attention of Comedy Central. The network believed Dave could create something special. Together, they developed a sketch comedy series unlike anything television had seen before. In 2003, Chappelle's show premiered. Nobody expected what happened next. The show exploded. Sketches spread across America almost overnight. People quoted them at school, at work, on television. Even celebrities became fans. Characters like Clayton Bigsby, Rick James, and Prince became part of pop culture. The famous line, "I'm Rick James," was repeated everywhere. It wasn't just another comedy show. It became a cultural phenomenon. Ratings skyrocketed. Every season attracted more viewers. DVD sales reached incredible numbers. People who had never watched Comedy Central suddenly became regular viewers. The network had discovered something priceless. Dave Chappelle wasn't simply making people laugh. He was making them tune in, week after week, episode after episode. That meant one thing: money. Lots of money. Television networks don't invest millions because they like someone. They invest because they believe that person will generate even greater profits. And Dave Chappelle was doing exactly that. Advertising revenue increased. DVD collections sold in massive numbers. The show's popularity continued growing. Comedy Central realized they couldn't afford to lose him, so they made a decision. Instead of negotiating one season at a time, they wanted to secure Dave's future with the network. Executives prepared one of the biggest contracts ever offered to a comedian. Reports stated it was worth approximately $50 million. The agreement would keep Dave creating more seasons of Chappelle's show. For Comedy Central, it made perfect business sense. The show had become their biggest success. As long as Dave stayed, the money would continue flowing. To the network, the contract wasn't an expense. It was an investment. To people watching from the outside, the decision looked obvious. Who would reject $50 million? Friends celebrated. Fans expected more episodes. Hollywood assumed Dave's future had been secured forever. Everything he had worked for was finally in front of him. Fame, money, recognition, the kind of success comedians dream about their entire lives. But something had quietly started changing. While the audience laughed every Wednesday night, Dave was beginning to notice things that viewers couldn't see. The pressure was growing. Expectations were becoming heavier. Creating a hit show wasn't enough anymore. Every season had to be bigger. Every sketch had to be funnier. Every episode had to outperform the last one. And behind the cameras, questions started filling Dave's mind. Questions that money couldn't answer. Was he still making the show he wanted to make? Or the show everyone else expected him to make? Was success giving him freedom, or taking it away? Those questions became impossible to ignore, because sometimes, the biggest opportunities also create the biggest doubts. And before Dave Chappelle could decide whether $50 million was worth accepting, he first had to answer a much more important question. What was the real price of saying yes? The contract was sitting in front of him. Approximately $50 million. For most people, the decision would have taken less than a minute. Sign it. Smile for the cameras. Keep making the biggest comedy show in America. But Dave Chappelle couldn't do it. Because while everyone else saw money, Dave was beginning to see something completely different. Pressure. Every episode of Chappelle's show had become bigger than the last. Comedy Central expected another hit. Fans expected every sketch to become legendary. The media expected Dave to keep pushing boundaries. The show had become so successful that people no longer wanted good episodes. They wanted perfection. Week after week. Year after year. The pressure wasn't just exhausting. It was changing the way Dave viewed his own work. He later explained that he began questioning whether some people were laughing for the reasons he intended. Dave had always used comedy to make people think. He wanted to challenge stereotypes, not strengthen them. But as the show became more popular, he started worrying that certain sketches were being misunderstood. One moment stayed with him. While filming one of the sketches, Dave noticed someone laughing in a way that made him uncomfortable. It wasn't the laughter itself. It was what he believed that laughter represented. For the first time, he questioned whether everyone watching truly understood the message behind his comedy. That moment stayed in his mind. Then came another problem. The workload became overwhelming. Writing, filming, editing, performing, trying to create comedy that millions of people expected to be better than the previous season. Success had become a machine that never stopped moving, and Dave felt trapped inside it. Meanwhile, Comedy Central wanted production on the next season to continue. After investing millions of dollars, the network expected results. From a business perspective, their expectations made sense. The show was generating enormous profits. Advertising revenue continued rising. DVD sales remained strong. Viewership kept growing. The network believed they were protecting one of television's biggest successes. But Dave wasn't thinking about ratings anymore. He was thinking about himself. He asked a question that many successful people are afraid to ask. Am I still happy? The answer surprised him. Instead of excitement, he felt exhausted. Instead of freedom, he felt pressure. Instead of enjoying success, he felt like success was beginning to control him. Then something happened that shocked the entire entertainment industry. In 2005, while production for the next season was underway, Dave Chappelle walked away. He didn't finish filming. He didn't complete the season. He left. Almost immediately, rumors exploded. Some newspapers claimed he had suffered a mental breakdown. Others reported he had disappeared. Wild stories spread across television and the internet. People invented explanations because nobody understood the truth. Where had Dave gone? The answer surprised everyone. He traveled to South Africa. Not to start another television show. He simply wanted space. Space to think. Space to breathe. Space to escape the pressure surrounding his life. That decision confused millions of people. How could anyone leave $50 million behind? Friends questioned him. Fans criticized him. Television hosts joked about him. Many people believed he had made the biggest mistake of his life. The headlines were brutal. Some called him irresponsible. Others called him crazy. To the outside world, Dave Chappelle had thrown away everything people dream about. But years later, Dave explained that his decision had nothing to do with hating success. It had everything to do with protecting himself. He believed that if he continued while feeling the way he did, he might lose something much more valuable than money. His peace, his creativity, his sense of purpose. That perspective completely changed the story. Suddenly, the question wasn't, why would someone reject $50 million? The question became, what would make someone reject $50 million? The answer was simple. Dave believed no amount of money was worth sacrificing the person he wanted to be. While the world criticized him, his career appeared to disappear. Chappelle's show ended. Hollywood stopped calling as often. Years passed. Many people assumed they would never see Dave Chappelle again. New comedians became famous. New television shows replaced the old ones. To many people, Dave had become a story from the past. It looked like the critics had been right. Maybe he had destroyed his career after all. But something interesting happened during those years. Although he stayed away from television, Dave never stopped doing stand-up comedy. He quietly appeared at comedy clubs. He surprised audiences with unannounced performances. Without the cameras, without the enormous pressure, he slowly rediscovered what made him love comedy in the first place. He wasn't trying to become famous again. He was simply becoming himself again. Those small performances reminded him that he didn't need a television network to make people laugh. He only needed a stage and an audience. The world didn't notice it yet. But while people believed Dave Chappelle had disappeared, he was rebuilding. Not his fame, his foundation. The same man everyone thought had walked away from success was quietly preparing for one of the greatest comebacks in comedy history. The media had written his ending. Hollywood believed his best years were over. Even many fans assumed they would only remember him for Chappelle's show. But they were all about to discover something. Dave Chappelle had never walked away from comedy. He had only walked away from the life that was destroying his love for it. And the decision that looked like the biggest failure of his career was about to become the reason for his greatest comeback. Because the man who rejected $50 million wasn't finished. His biggest success was still waiting for him. When Dave Chappelle rejected $50 million, the world believed they already knew how his story would end. They thought he had thrown away the biggest opportunity of his life. They thought Hollywood would forget him. They thought another comedian would replace him. For years, that seemed true. Dave stayed away from television. He rarely gave interviews. He wasn't starring in blockbuster movies. He wasn't trying to remind people who he was. Meanwhile, a new generation of comedians entered the spotlight. The entertainment industry did exactly what it always does. It moved on. But there was one thing people didn't understand. Dave Chappelle had never stopped performing. While cameras disappeared, comedy didn't. He quietly returned to stand-up clubs across America. Sometimes audiences didn't even know he was coming. Then suddenly, Dave Chappelle would walk onto the stage. No television network. No expensive production. Just a microphone. Those performances reminded him why he fell in love with comedy in the first place. Not because of contracts. Not because of ratings. Not because of fame. Because he genuinely loved making people think. As the years passed, something unexpected happened. Instead of forgetting Dave Chappelle, people missed him. His absence made audiences appreciate what they had lost. The same man newspapers once called crazy slowly became one of the most respected comedians in America. Then came the moment nobody expected. In 2016, Dave hosted Saturday Night Live just days after one of the most talked about presidential elections in American history. Millions watched. His opening monologue immediately reminded people why he had become a legend. He was confident, sharp, fearless. The performance earned widespread praise and won him an Emmy Award. Hollywood suddenly realized something. Dave Chappelle hadn't lost his gift. He had simply waited until the time felt right. Then another opportunity arrived. This time, it wasn't Comedy Central. It was Netflix. The streaming giant wanted Dave Chappelle to create stand-up comedy specials. Unlike the situation years earlier, Dave now had something he didn't have before: experience. He understood exactly what kind of career he wanted. Reports later revealed that Netflix paid Dave tens of millions of dollars for multiple comedy specials. Ironically, the man who once rejected $50 million eventually earned enormous amounts of money anyway. But this time, the circumstances were different. He wasn't accepting a deal because he felt trapped. He accepted it because it matched the life he wanted. That difference changed everything. Specials like The Age of Spin, 2017, Deep in the Heart of Texas, 2017, Equanimity, 2017, and The Closer, 2021, became some of Netflix's biggest comedy events. Millions watched around the world. Dave Chappelle was officially back. But his comeback wasn't free from controversy. Some of his jokes divided audiences. Some people praised his honesty. Others strongly criticized him. Several of his Netflix specials sparked heated public debates. Calls for boycotts appeared. News headlines returned. Once again, Dave found himself at the center of national conversations. But something had changed. Years earlier, public pressure had almost pushed him away from comedy. Now, he handled criticism differently. He no longer seemed interested in pleasing everyone. He accepted that great comedians often challenge audiences. Whether people agreed with him or not, he refused to become someone else simply to avoid criticism. That confidence came from experience. Walking away years earlier had taught him something priceless. You cannot build a meaningful career by living according to everyone else's expectations. That lesson became more valuable than the money itself. Then, in 2019, Dave received one of comedy's highest honors, the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor. The award is given to people whose work has made an extraordinary impact on American comedy. It was a remarkable moment. Years earlier, people had called him the man who ruined his career. Now, he was being celebrated as one of the greatest comedians of his generation. History had completely rewritten his story. Looking back today, the question isn't whether Dave Chappelle lost $50 million. The real question is, what did he gain? He gained peace. He gained control over his career. He gained the freedom to decide when he would work, who he would work with, and what kind of comedy he wanted to create. Those things cannot be measured by a bank account. They can only be measured by the life someone chooses to live. His story also changed how many entertainers viewed success. For decades, Hollywood taught one lesson: never walk away. Take every opportunity. Stay visible. Keep working. Dave Chappelle challenged that idea. He proved that sometimes saying no can protect everything you've worked for. His decision wasn't about rejecting money. It was about refusing to lose himself. That distinction matters, because many people spend their lives chasing success. Very few stop to ask whether success is costing them too much. Dave did, and his answer shocked the world. Today, people often ask, did Dave Chappelle make the right decision? Only Dave himself can fully answer that question. But the facts tell an interesting story. He rebuilt one of the most successful careers in comedy. He earned millions again. He won Emmy Awards. He received the Mark Twain Prize. He returned on his own terms. Most importantly, he found his love for comedy again. Maybe that's why people still admire him. Not because he became rich. Not because he became famous. But because he reminded the world that success means different things to different people. For some, success is money. For others, it's freedom. Dave Chappelle chose freedom. And years later, freedom brought him success anyway. That is why his story continues to inspire millions. Because it asks a question every successful person must eventually answer. If achieving your dream costs your peace, is it still your dream? Dave Chappelle answered that question with one decision. One signature he never gave. One contract he never accepted. One choice that looked foolish in the moment, but brilliant with the benefit of time. Perhaps that was never the story of a man who rejected $50 million. Perhaps it was always the story of a man who understood that some things are simply not for sale. This is Dave Chappelle. This is his biography.